It's Wednesday.
I think so.
It's Wednesday. We've confirmed.
Starting to forget the days.
Hey, everybody. Gonna wait a second and let people come in the room. We wanted to talk about this new normal. I think it's important that
Not the new normal.
the new normal that we don't want to become the new normal.
Yeah.
That they're using manipulative linguistic tactics to help us accept that this is the new normal. In fact, every time I hear that phrase, the new normal, something viscerally reacts inside me where I'm just like, this is wrong. Do any of you feel like that as well? I want to talk about why that phrase is dangerous, what's happening in Australia right now. Did you guys know that in Australia right now, there's been, there's been lockdowns all day long at 8 p.m. Yes, in Melbourne, Australia. At 8 p.m., everybody has to go back to their house. They're not allowed out. They're only allowed outside for 1 hour a day. These are draconian measures. This is not medical intervention. This is medical martial law. What's happening over there is really alarming.
But there must be a lot of deaths, right? So
within 6 months, I think there's 438 deaths.
438,000?
No, 438 deaths.
438
yes.
million?
And people can't go. People can't go 5 kilometers from their house, okay, without showing their documentation. Does this sound reminiscent to y'all of any history you've ever been in? Any history lessons?
I mean, I don't mean to make it a joke, but more people die of diabetes. More people die, of so many medical issues. When I saw the number 438 deaths in 6 months, that must be a misprint. There must be 48,000 or something. Something to make sense of this. There's nothing to make sense of.
We also know that, admittedly, people are not counting these COVID deaths accurately.
No.
They have not been reported accurately. They have not been tested accurately. Some of the tests have been faulty. We're basing our entire reality off of self-admitted wrong information.
Yeah. The new theme is, say something absolutely stunning, and then 3 days later say, well, actually, that's maybe not quite true. Just look at the Lancet study that was pulled. It was the biggest news for 3 days, and then they pulled a study. I think that we've sort of fallen in this trap where we've made this so scary, and we've lost sight of the fact that freedom should be the overwhelming principle that we're all grabbing onto. And let me explain why. So, when somebody says you have to do all these things to help other people because you're putting other lives in danger if you don't do these things, you have to be able to then be able to apply that to every facet of life. So you have to be consistent. So if we're consistent, then, if you can impose a mask on a healthy woman like Landon, okay, and say you have to wear it to protect other people, okay, then you should also be able to impose healthy food on morbidly obese people. And you would say, oh, well, morbidly obese people don't pose a threat to you. Well, if they have a heart attack in their car while they're driving and they hit me, then they do pose a threat.
But also not even that.
Or alcohol. Yeah. Alcohol, let's ban alcohol because people who drive drunk pose a threat to me and my children. Mm-hmm. And so we can't have alcohol anymore.
Well, just look at the statistics. Medically, the comorbidities that happen as a result of being morbidly obese or having alcoholism or any other condition, you are putting others at risk by you being more susceptible to contracting any illness, whether it be flu, cold, anything. So it's not just being old, and it's not just being a cancer patient. It's literally just being unhealthy. So we're mandating masks and medical intervention, government mandated medical intervention on healthy people. And no studies have been done, long-term studies on the health, how that affects your health, wearing a mask. The short-term studies that have been done, you look at the ones on pregnant women wearing N95 masks, which are not indicated to be worn all day by anyone, including medical personnel. But those are the ones that we know are the most effective for certain viruses. and you're not even supposed to be wearing that all day. So where are we getting the science, the studies? I would love for somebody to post one that disagrees, saying that this is healthy when we know for pregnant women is not healthy.
Well, a good example, like a good sort of like thing to jump into there is, you know, the neck gaiters, the things people are wearing. So at the beginning, they were recommending the neck gaiters, anything you could cover your face with. Now all of the mass studies that are coming out, and even mainstream media ran articles on this week, saying, you know, those are actually not only bad, but the most recent study said it was worse to wear a neck gaiter than it was to wear nothing at all. And even the mainstream media, to their credit, I'll give them, I rarely, you know, I mean, they rarely deserve credit. They really don't. I'll do it begrudgingly, though. They at least ran that story. You know, it's rare that they actually run stories that are counter to the narrative they want, but I'll give them credit. They did run that one.
Remember at the beginning, they said that they lied essentially, you know, to tell us that we didn't need masks. The masks didn't save lives. So this is the World Health Organization, Anthony Fauci. You know, all the experts said that masks weren't a necessary medical intervention. And then they said, oh, you know, we said that because, you know, we didn't want to overwhelm and take the resources and the masks away from the people who need it, the medical field. Okay, so here we are now, many months later, and where we could easily have access, everybody could have access to those masks, but they're saying to wear the cloth masks, that those are just as effective, and that everybody needs to wear the cloth masks, even though the science completely does not corroborate that.
Well, you have to look at
it makes no sense. Like, but why didn't they mandate the cloth masks at the beginning? If they're just as effective, they didn't. They didn't say, hey, you know what? We have masks are effective. You know, coronavirus is here. We don't know how it's going to react. The science didn't change.
Yeah.
What changed?
The biggest problem here too with it is like, and I don't want to just like go like, oh, I'm just going so hard on masks. It's just that, you know, number one, human behavior is something that we have to take into account. You've all been outside. I've been outside. The thing that I find the most alarming is I see people touching their masks the entire time. More than people touch their face, and they're touching it because it gets itchy. It gets, you know, like you feel the pressure on your face. It's like a not normal thing for humans. So they touch them all the time. And so you're actually touching those areas more than you normally would, and then you touch things. So, you know, that's something we really haven't looked deeply into, which is something we should all be asking questions about. Why haven't we looked deeply into this? Why isn't there major studies being done on this? On that extra touching we're doing and how that could be doing
once again,
something.
Anthony Fauci, the expert, came out and said that. He said that
was what he said. Fauci said
why
that.
it has been contraindicated in the past is because people touch it, particularly children, all of that. But, you know, this isn't really just about hyper-focusing on the mask. You know, whether you believe as an individual it's effective or not, that's up to you. You're an individual. Do whatever you want to do to keep you and your family healthy. You look at the science, you make those decisions, just like any other medical decision or intervention on your body, in your life, in your home, in your family. But what we're talking about is really dangerous, is all these government mandates that are based on day-to-day flippant science, flippant, you know, opinions, that have no basis in real, justifiable danger. Okay, so I would say that, you know, 438 people dying within 6 months. Again, we don't know what the comorbidities were. We don't know if they were even accurately counted deaths. But you're talking about shutting down, you know, people's lives, people's healthcare access, and
their ability
fundamentally
to make money.
Changing a society, psychologically damaging people. I mean, everything, your livelihood, everything, the government controlling. If we're really at a place where that's okay and acceptable and normal, the new normal, that's normal, where are we headed?
Yeah, I mean, my question really that I would really like answered is what is going to happen in the next bad flu season? Are these expectations going to be the new normal for every bad flu season, where there's something that is, you know, really terrible flu? Are we going to lock down, throw masks on, and, you know, hyper sanitize everything in our lives? Now, look, I hate germs. I've always been a big hand washer, so I would say that's probably the only net positive out of this whole thing is people are washing their hands more. But outside of that, we really have to question, you know, what are we looking at in the future? Because we've seen Fauci now come out and say, hey, we may not want to take the masks off. You know, he's even actually at one point was saying we should add goggles to it. So, you know, you have to think about that. Now, I want to point something out. Sweden is a country with 10 million people, okay? Sweden did not lock down. Sweden has, at this point in time, around 5,600 deaths, okay? New York, we're talking about 8 million people, 32,000 dead, okay? New Jersey, 9 million, 16,000 dead. So New York, New Jersey had some of the most insane lockdowns in the country, insane rules. Sweden, no lockdown, no nothing, went on with their lives. 5,600 dead in a country with a higher population than those. So you have to ask yourself, have we made the right decisions? Have we bought into a moral panic about every one life being so worth, doing all this stuff for, that it's worth it? Because the reality is, you can say, oh, well, you're pro-life, so why wouldn't you be for that? Well, the reality is it's not what it claims to be. Saving one life at the expense of 100 others is not morally right. It's not something you can morally equivocate. Because if you save one life from COVID, but you have 5 people commit suicide, was it the right thing to do lockdowns? And that's a question we're going to be asking ourselves for a very long time, because the long-term outlook in terms of death caused by lockdowns is something we're not really going to be able to put a number on for a year, maybe 2 years, 3 years.
Well, also, with the pro-life thing, that's a direct consequence. It's a direct number. When you intentionally kill a human being, that's one death. You can quantify that. You cannot prove and measure and quantify that you go to the grocery store and that particular person right over there in aisle 3 breathed on something I touched, and it was at that moment that I was exposed to this that it got me corona, and now I'm gonna blame it on that person. Like we just had what is the one, the lady who spread her legs in that movie Fatal Attraction or something? Sharon Stone.
Where are we going with
Sharon
this?
Stone. I know you're worried. Sharon Stone. Wasn't it Sharon Stone that came out and said, one of her loved ones got COVID and passed away, and she said it was one of you non-mask wearers.
I don't know anything about
Am I
this.
wrong here?
I don't know.
Well, correct me if I'm wrong. Am I going crazy, or did I read that somewhere? Can somebody tell me?
In this weird
Basic Instinct. Thank you. That was the movie. But was I wrong about it being Sharon Stone? I don't want to be like a fake news person here, so correct me if I'm wrong. But I think I'm up. Yeah.
But I want to bring up something else though. With the whole New York thing, I brought up the numbers about New York and how they compare with Sweden. So when you compare Sweden to New York, Sweden has higher population and has far less deaths than Sweden. Okay, so why is it the Democratic Party and the media are celebrating Como as if he's like this angel sent down from God to save America from COVID? Have people forgotten that New York has more deaths and had a higher case fatality rate than any other state in the United States, and that thousands of old people were killed in nursing homes because of Como's horrific decision? They're so afraid. They had him
speak at the Democratic convention, so clearly they didn't.
And they treated him like he was a hero, and they're forgetting the fact that there's people like that. Who's the Fox anchor? She does the weather.
Just the weather.
Yeah, I'm forgetting her name right now, but she lost both of her in-laws to COVID because of the nursing home situation in New York, and they wouldn't let her speak at an assembly meeting because they were afraid that it would be too emotional. This is the type of Janice Dean, thank you. And she, and if you don't know her story, please look her up. Her story is really moving, and it's something that people should know, because I don't like to blame politicians for a virus. There's a lot of difficult decisions to make during it, but that specific decision about nursing homes was one that was so, divorced from reality and what was right, and they didn't learn in real time and change course. They stuck with the decision for far too long and killed too many people, where it does deserve to be looked at differently than a lot of the other things, where you kind of have to make split-second decisions and you don't know whether it's right or wrong. It wasn't really one of those things. It seems pretty common sense. Don't send COVID into a facility with a bunch of old people who don't have it. That seems like common sense to me. But go outside of that. Have we forgotten where this virus came from?
Did it come from Trump's house? Trump, right?
Because watching the Democratic National Convention, I would have thought that
Trump
it was came from
started
him.
the virus, and he passed it to everybody.
That's
right?
what you would think if you were watching the Democratic National Convention, but no, it in fact started in Wuhan, China. Wuhan, China, by the way, is having gigantic open-air concerts right now, okay? Gigantic open-air concerts, okay? With thousands and thousands of people, not
And no
socially
masks.
distanced, no masks, playing. They're
I'd like
swimming
to
together
also point out that
in the crowd.
in the place that the virus originated, everyone wears masks.
Yeah. True. True. I've been there.
So who passed
I've been
it
all
to
over
who?
China.
So which non-mask wearer passed it?
Yeah.
I mean,
it's something you got to think about. I've been all
where masks are
over China,
mandated.
and mask wearing is the norm in China. I mean, pretty much everywhere. There's a couple parts of China I've been to where it was maybe a little less mask wearing, but where Wuhan is definitely an area where they wear a lot of masks. So that's a question you got to ask yourself. The other thing too is, why has the World Health Organization not brought China to account and made them answer for how many deaths there really were? Because everybody's aware China did not give real numbers,
or the UN,
and nobody will.
Nobody will.
They're all afraid of China, And at some point, we need to have the conversation about China and their culpability in this, because China's responsible for everything that happened after they knew how bad this was, and they lied to everybody. They knew this transmitted human to human, and they lied until the end of January, saying that it did not transmit human to human. And the World Health Organization helped them do that. They still have the tweet up saying that the coronavirus does not transfer human to human, which was a lie. And it's something that we have to have there has to be something at some point. We can't just ignore that this happened. Whether you're Democrat or Republican, I'm not blaming Democrats and I'm not blaming Republicans for the virus. I'm blaming China for the virus.
Right. But also, I mean, talking about that, especially watching the Democratic Convention, they're up here saying that he didn't do enough. Trump didn't do enough. He didn't intervene soon enough. He wasn't hard enough. And I mean, you could literally put side by side these posts that they have on all mainstream media saying Trump's racist, banning the flights from China. He's doing too much, calling him a xenophobe, calling him all these names, and painting him like he was a dictator. Taking these dramatic interventions to make us all safe. As soon as he heard about it, he took action. And what did they do? They vilified him for it. And what did they do last night and the night before on the Democratic Convention? They told him he didn't do enough. I mean, people are waking up. Either you have woken up to this and you know what's going on, or it really wouldn't matter if somebody showed you side by side. You could air, and this is what I would recommend for any RNC people or any GOP people that are making content for the mass public. Air these Democrats on the convention saying all of these things, virtue signaling about kids in cages, whatnot, and then put on the other side and date it where that contradicts themselves, where they're complete hypocrites from before. People need to see it side by side, because that's literally our last hope for people accepting truth. Because if they won't accept it at that point, then at least we know as a society where we're truly at.
Yeah.
But it has to be put in front of them. You have to show people the evidence right in front of them, and then show juxtaposition that with something else of what they just said last night.
I was gonna say hi to some people. Hi Cam. Hi. Let's see. Big Lon. Hi. JNK. Hi. Refocus Zone. Hi Chris.
So one of the things that we're focused on, we have a lot of stuff going on right now besides live streaming.
I love the Cam
projects. Hey Cam. But one of the things we are going to do is a rally.
In Franklin, Tennessee. So if any of you guys that are near Nashville want to join us, we are going to have a freedom rally. It's looking like it's going to be on September 11th. And we just want to get as many people who believe in freedom together as possible. So if you want to be a part of it, go to growuplive.com, sign up for our email list, and you will get info on it sent to you. And so it's growuplive.com, go to the email list, and people have been asking how to support the show. If you on Grow Up Live, there's a bunch of different things. You can either do Patreon, PayPal, go to the store, whatever. It helps us creating new shows and content because we have other content we want to make for you guys to have alternatives from Netflix and places like that. So definitely do that. Get a Grow Up shirt or a mug.
So that's one thing that we're working on because I think it's really important. There's so many people that say, when it comes down to it, I would fight. Or they look back at history and say, I would have been an abolitionist, or I would have stopped the Nazis from rounding up the Jews. But it's interesting that here we are. What makes you think you'll fight for your country when you won't even speak up for your country? There's so many still so silent, still so afraid to show up, to speak out. And it's not I'm not here to shame anybody. I just want to make it clear that it's very necessary for us to speak up, because the more that we are silent and the more that we don't show up and support each other and unite as at this point, common sense, level-headed.
Yeah, we need to show ourselves out in
people
person, which is why we're doing this.
Yes, that it's only going to make those that already feel isolated, like questioning themselves. It's only going to make those people accept this craziness as the new normal, because they themselves feel crazy, and that's how it's designed. It's designed to make people isolated, disconnected from each other, and with everything happening with censoring, this is the same thing. It's the same calling cards in history. The censorship, rounding up people, shaming people, shunning people. It's the same thing we've seen in history, and it's so remarkable to me how people are just completely pacified by everything going on.
I want to get your opinion on this. The University of Georgia saying students need to wear a mask or should wear a mask during sex. What do you think about that?
I mean, I'm trying to picture how that works.
Hold on. I need to put my mask on.
I could make a really bad joke right now, but I'm not. I'm not going to do it. But I'm a classy lady. I'm not going to do it.
No, you know what I did want to bring up, though, since we're on the track of universities here. Has anybody pulled a bigger scam than the colleges, okay? The colleges all knew they were never going to come back in person, okay? The majority of them. They pretended they were to get their tuition money from parents and kids. They treated everyone like suckers, and now they brought them back to school, and within a week, they're all starting to shut down. If you couldn't see this coming, I mean, I don't know if I can help. I really, this is so transparent, what they were doing. They knew they weren't going to do this. They always had the idea that, hey, 3 kids get COVID, we're shutting down. It's ridiculous. I mean, do we do that for anything else? Anything else? No.
No, but that's why it's so dangerous.
By the way, why haven't we done this for cancer? This whole thing. Why haven't we gone, you know what, as a country, cancer kills everybody we know. I know like 6 people in my family who've had cancer. Why haven't we as a country? Everybody feels that way in their family. I bet every single person watching knows somebody in their family has had cancer or died from cancer. And we as a country have never gone, hey, you know what? Cancer is the priority for 3 months. Everything is going to be about curing cancer. And we are going to find a cure for cancer, and we are going to fight it, and we are going to win. And cancer is going to be gone.
The war on cancer.
We've never done that. We've never had a war on cancer. Cancer kills way more people than COVID ever will.
And if you don't wear your mask, you're a cancer kid killer.
Exactly. So, we have to be logical about this.
The morality, it should be consistent, right? And this is what I've said from the very beginning. The masks aren't coming off. This is not, let's bend the curve or flatten the curve. This happened. This was supposed to be a matter of a couple weeks. There's still people that are jobless. There's still people that are trying to rebuild the ashes of their, crashed businesses, and they can't put food on the table. There's people that have committed suicide during this process. The amounts of abuse that are taking place that we've witnessed firsthand, somebody close to us, that has, what is happening now? It's like we're just being indoctrinated to not see reality. It's unbelievable to me how quickly this process, how effective media manipulation, coronaphobia. The coronaphobia is going to kill more people than the coronavirus. And the CDC director, I think he's the director, the guy with the beard.
Yeah, he's director.
He came
Robert
out
Redford.
saying that we have more suicides than we're going to end up with corona deaths, and this is really dangerous.
And that's just one avenue of effects. Now let's actually switch gears to cancer. There's a bunch of people who didn't get cancer treatment because of COVID. They couldn't go to the facilities and get treatment under the rules there were, or they were so afraid to because of COVID and the way it was being presented to them. So you have all these other deaths that are going to stack up from this, okay? The only net negative from lockdowns was car accident deaths, but that doesn't equal out with the amount of cancer deaths and suicides and the mental illnesses that are going to go on from this point on that could end up leading to deaths in the future. There are so many different avenues and little branches on this tree that can cause death from these lockdowns that we haven't begun to really explore how deep and wide that goes. But what we do know is we really need to think hard about this, because we're potentially creating, and I believe we are creating, a world where we're setting a standard where in the future for really bad flus, we're going to have people in America, in our government, asking the same thing of the American people. Mm-hmm. And if that is where we're going, we are creating a culture where we are going to kill more people than we are saving. And that's something that people have to reckon with, and I won't be a part of it.
And it's not just killing, too. It's the actual quality of life. If you've destroyed somebody psychologically, I mean, what is the price of that? What is the value of that? So many people are saying that, our streams are being messed with. They can't. This happens every time. It happens every single time we do a live stream, a show. At this point, it's not a. It's not a conspiracy theory. So
we literally
at the very
have
least that we just have the worst luck ever.
Well, for the record,
streaming our content.
Yeah. For the record, we literally have a 1 gigabyte internet line directly to our home. There should be no issue ever with our streams.
Well, this is
we have what would be like the best internet for anybody. There should be no problem.
And there isn't. There isn't, because we do other work aside from this kind of stuff, and we don't have issues streaming things. We don't have issue uploading gigabytes
we
of
literally
content.
I have a web broadcaster that we can use for web broadcasting for major production companies, major movie studios, and we have never had a problem with it ever, not once, to run their live stuff through. So I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I mean, all I can say is, like somebody like Cam knows the amount of censorship we see on our accounts, and Cam and I have talked about it before, is crazy. I get hundreds of messages on a regular basis. I would say probably every week or so I get about 100 messages from people, whether it's like response to my tweets or DMs between all the different social media outlets saying that they were unsubscribed from my account on YouTube or that they were unfollowed.
I've been unsubscribed from my own husband.
Yes, she got unfollowed from my Twitter account without her touching it. Okay? I could believe maybe 5 people accidentally pressed it. I could believe 15 people accidentally pressed it. I can't believe that thousands of people a year are accidentally pressing unfollow and then coming back and saying, hey, I had to refollow you. And then having it happen again to them and them saying, I had to refollow you a second time. And in a comedy of just weird coincidences, some of these people have had to refollow me 5 times.
Right, and nobody gets our notifications. Virtually nobody. This is why we're doing more in person, because you can't remove us unless you're going to get a claw that comes out of the sky and just takes us away from our speaking events, because that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to show up in person. Yep. It's inconvenient for us, but we're going to do it with our family, manage everything. We're going to do this because we're so tired of being suppressed, and we're not going to let
they need to be careful. They really need to be careful with this. I mean, these social media companies need to be careful who they censor, because you motivate the wrong people and they're going to make way more change happen. Look at Laura Loomer. You don't have to love Laura Loomer.
You're not allowed to use her name.
I know. I've actually been told by Twitter that I have to be careful with her name.
You can be banned for even mentioning
how I talk
her
about
name.
her. Well, not her name, not mentioning
why
it. But
she was banned
if you go into the whole thing
you
about
can.
it,
You can be
I was
censored
actually told by Twitter.
You get flagged.
I was actually told by Twitter that I be careful going into the whole thing. so this should be crazy to people, but look what she did. They censored her from every social media. You don't have to like her, but just look at the story. Mm-hmm. They censored her from all these different social media outlets, and what did she do? She just won her primary for Congress. So they need to be careful with that, because they're going to motivate the wrong people and end up with a lot of people who really hate big tech in office.
And what happened with the Comcast thing? Will you explain that with
See, I still don't fully understand what happened, but they weren't allowing her to send out her campaign messages. That's all I know, but I don't know what.
Right, bubble bath.
See, I don't like to get deep into something unless I really know the details.
So bubble bath girl was saying maybe your provider knows you're a Trump supporter. That's the reality of what we have to think about and think like now, because there's people that they don't just disagree with us, you guys. They're
using their positions to hurt us.
They want to not just deplatform you. They don't want to just silence you, but they want you to lose your job. They want you to not have access to internet, to your social media platforms. They want to unperson you. I mean, that's just one step behind loading you up on a railroad car.
Here's the deal. This
is very, very dangerous thinking.
If you don't realize it yet, you're a warrior in an intellectual civil war. It's taking place on the internet now, but hopefully that's where it stays. I don't know that is where it'll stay. With the amount of unrest in our country and the amount of division, who knows where it's going to go. But what I know right now is that you guys are warriors. You're not simply people on the internet with an opinion. If you don't recognize you're a warrior, a digital warrior at this point, then it's time to recognize it and realize that there's real change you can make, and that you can be reaching out to people. You can be doing things to spread the word and the right messages, and being very thoughtful about how you message, because I've seen some people, go at it the wrong way. You go at it in a vulgar way, or you go at it in a, sort of debasing way to the other side. You're not turning on moderates to our message. We need to show moderates and people in the center, or people who are center left, how crazy the left is. Because believe it or not, people on the center left are movable. I have personally flipped tons of people using just the internet, okay? And some of those people now are hardcore Republican supporters and voters after just being woken up to the lies that they've been told, okay? And some of those people are out there now on a daily basis spreading the word, doing what they can to make the right things happen. I want to make this very clear. I wish I didn't have to talk about politics, okay? I really do. I mean, are there segments of politics that are interesting? Sure. But I didn't get into politics, and I didn't start talking about politics because I was so enthused by politics. I started talking about it because I saw that we were fighting for the life of our country. America is the last beacon of freedom. If we don't fight for it, no one else will. And if it falls, there is no America behind us to save everyone. There is no other major country that is a beacon of freedom to spread it across the world. If America falls to the far left, freedom falls to the far left. And that'll be gone for a generation, if not more. Okay? Until they wake up to the horrors of what will happen in the future.
Can you name one country in history that fell into socialism or fell into some sort of genocide, and they were able to pick themselves back up without the intervention of somebody else?
It was always entirely remade. So it was never just hey, you know what, let's make a course correction here. It doesn't look like this is working out.
Once you lose your guns, you lose your free speech, you lose your ability to challenge the government. You don't get to say, oh, sorry, can I have that back? I didn't think it through. I would like it back now. Yep. I want my guns back. I want my speech back. I want my platforms back. I want my rights back. I want to go outside again. Once you see that ground, you don't get to change your mind again.
Somebody said Russia. No, Russia, that's not what happened. Russia didn't just get to make a course correction. Russia killed tens of millions of people, okay, along the way when they were the USSR. Okay, so there wasn't some slight course correction. They went through a period of just total destruction, and then it had to be fully remade from the ground up. That's what I'm saying. Is there's no place in history where we veered into far leftism. Let's just make a U-turn back. It doesn't work that way. These things go down in flames for a reason, because that's the only way that you can build things back up. Once you've destroyed things, you can't just say, oh, you know what, it has to burn down. And that's what I'm hoping doesn't happen, is that we don't end up in that place where everything burns down because we handed our country over to a group of people who fundamentally hate everything about what our country was founded on. Okay? And especially coming from a family, there's something in my DNA. Coming from a refugee mother who fled socialism and communism, there is something in my DNA that wants to protect every human being from this ideology. Okay? And so I will do everything that I can do. Yeah, I've already given up, basically committed career suicide on a multi-million-dollar job. So I'm willing to do anything. We are unafraid. We will keep fighting for you guys. And I just want to encourage every one of you guys, do what you can intelligently to make the difference on a daily basis. If you don't know how to, reach out. Go to growuplive.com, sign up for the mailing list, and you'll get the Trump PDF accomplishments things. Probably the easiest thing you could do to help is give that accomplishments list to people who you know, who you don't know, who you could flip. Because a lot of them have no idea what policy has actually happened over the last 3.5 years. So that's a starting point. But, there are a million ways to fight.
But I'm just going to say it. I mean, we don't have the time and luxury anymore of just intellectually trying to debate people that don't want to debate. I mean, that's what we have to accept, that this is happening. There is no more debate happening. What's going to happen when Trump wins is scary. It's going to be devastating to our country because these people are not going to just accept this election. And everyone needs to be aware of this. And I think that most of us are, okay? But this is why, it is requiring us to step up in a new and different way at this point in time. And that is why we've made the decision to do more in-person events, to put ourselves out there physically. We might need a bulletproof vest, but we're going to show up. And we need to unite. We need to unite physically. We need to have a presence physically in our modern day square, because the modern day square of the internet is not reflected accurately of where people stand in their viewpoints and ideology.
Bubble Bath Girl is totally correct. The violence is going to get so much worse from the left when Trump wins again.
Yeah, it is. It's going to be, they've come out and said these plans are available. If you have the time to research it, this isn't a conspiracy theory. You can literally draw a direct line to these people that are mouthpieces for the Marxist organizations, Antifa. They have plans to destroy America from within. It's already been very effective. If you're paying attention, what's happened in our schools and media, it's been extremely effective. How else did we get to this point? We never thought we would get to this point, and here we are. That's why it's requiring us to step up in a very bold way at this point. We can no longer assume that there are, that there's going to be peacemakers on both sides that aren't going to let our country, just get utterly destroyed. I mean, I would like to go back to that place where I believed that there was just good people everywhere and that we're not going to let this happen. But the reality is, yes, there are good people everywhere, but there is a well-coordinated, well-thought-out attack on America, on our values, on capitalism, on our entire system, that the objective is total and utter chaos and destruction. And if you haven't accepted that, then it's going to be such a rude awakening in November when this happens. So I want everybody to be prepared,
And to your point,
it's going to be awful.
To your point, people, I think if you're missing the dangers that are out there and how badly this can go, you're doing such a disservice to yourself. You really need to think through how far this can go. Joe Biden is not a moderate. I wish I could say this was an election where, hey, you know what? It's going to be a guy I hate for 4 years. If he wins, you'll hate him, and then we'll come back. Kamala Harris has already said that she wants to stack the Supreme Court. You stack the Supreme Court and they want to create, new states. DC would be a state. Puerto Rico would be a state. that happens, you won't have Republicans in power for 100 years. I mean, that's just, it is what it is. 100 years, probably. It would be a generation. They would have to get that deep into the actual destruction where it comes down. I mean, maybe you know what, 100 years giving them a lot of credit. They'd probably destroy America within 35 years. So we'll say 35 years, but it would be a generation essentially that they are in power if they're able to do that and make 2 new states, have 4 new senators, and have all those votes. Oh, and that's not even counting that they want to turn all of the illegal immigrants to the country into citizens who can vote. So there's another 20 million votes for Democrats, or let's say out of those 20 million, 15 million, the point is, and not all of them will vote, but those are new voters that are predominantly Democrat, and that's why they want to do that. So that's a generation of Democrats in power everywhere. So California, what you see happening there, rolling blackouts that are planned by the state, is what you can plan on seeing throughout the whole country in areas, which will be most of America, dominated by the left. So, this is what we have to think about. And eventually it's probably, if it goes that direction, say Biden did win, we would eventually go a direction of having to have the conversation about having a national divorce. And that's a conversation nobody wants to have. I don't want to have, because I think that it is a major national security issue for us to break up in any way. But I mean, if they fully embrace socialism and communism, there are too many people in this country who will not go silently with that. It's not going to happen. So I mean,
but it's not. See, let's cut to the chase. It's not just about, because that idea, like, oh, it's good, they're embracing socialism as an idea, doesn't sound as scary as the reality is. The reality is they will come to your home and take your guns. They will come and suppress your free speech. They will fire, they will unperson conservatives that go against the system, that speak out against the government. That's what we have to cut to. Because when we just say, oh, socialism, they don't understand. They don't speak the same language. To them, socialism sounds amazing, because we've sent them to school for 12 plus years where they've been indoctrinated slowly and methodically to accept it as this wonderful community, collective happening that is going to be better for everybody. A moral shift. And we're over here saying, yeah, socialism is dangerous. We need to explain why specifically.
Let me say this. Any influencers out there, and some of you I know and I like, if you're watching and you are considering voting for yourself or for some write-in candidate for the election, you need to put down the crack pipe. And you need to see what we've got. And I say that in love, but we've got something bigger that we're facing right now. And we really don't have the ability to play games. There's not the room to play games. And I know you can be jaded within the system. You can be jaded by certain hiring things that have happened throughout the administration. Whatever it is, whatever your reasoning is, this is not the election for shenanigans. This is too important. And we have to use our platforms responsibly. I'm very careful about, so much that we present to people because we want to use this platform responsibly. And I just think if you're on that track, just rethink it, because this is too important of an election to go that direction.
Also, it's a really important time, to focus, have self-discipline, and focus on what is important. Okay? We get so distracted with stupid stuff that's just designed to keep our mind entertained, bound, away from what's happening. Like distractions over here. Here's a dog and pony show. Here's a new Netflix thing. Here's this. Here, stay focused. We have to stay focused on what's happening and on the big issues.
Yep.
Okay? On the minutia, we can't talk about the minutia. Don't get stuck in the weeds. Don't get stuck in the minutia. Focus on the big picture.
This is why I said reach out to people that are center left, who were like, call them blue dog Democrats, people who, maybe they believe in higher taxes, or maybe they believe in more social programs, or whatever it is. Reach out to them, because this isn't about left versus right. This is about good versus evil in this election. And that's not me saying that every Biden voter is evil. Not the case at all. I'm not one of those people that's going to say, oh, they're all deplorable, whatever it is. There'll be a lot of good people who vote for him. emotional manipulation goes a long way.
Right.
And some of the best people out there just have such big hearts that so much of their thinking is emotional.
Mm-hmm.
And on the right, you know what? We got to do a better job making emotional arguments to people like that, because that's the way that they think. And our positions, our policies can be communicated in a way that takes into account emotionality. It can be empathetic. It can be, in touch with emotions. We don't do that enough, and that's something that I would encourage everybody to do, is take heed that some of these really good people with really good hearts, they need to be spoken to and listened to with that emotionality in mind. And if you do that, you can break through and you can really be able to get your message heard.
Imagine how you'd want to be talked to.
Yeah.
If you were raw.
If you were feeling everything.
Yeah.
Instead of thinking rational, like somebody like me, the best way to talk to me is with statistics and numbers, and get straight to the logical sort of stuff. But hyper emotional people, you need to make it a story. You need to be able to sort of draw and weave through an actual arc of a story and say, look, so if you believe in this, let me tell you a story about this, the reason why I believe in the opposite. And you say that in an emotional way, and maybe I need to, do an example of this, but that's how you really break through, is being able to make that emotional argument. Last thing, honestly, I think actually, what time is it? I think I may need to.
12:24.
I need to get going.
Okay. Well,
you want to keep talking?
No, I was just, I forgot what I was going to say about something. I was looking at one of the comments here from y'all. I mean, y'all have some great comments. Okay, well, I was going to say one thing, that, radicalism, is that a word, radicalism?
Yes, you take over.
All right.
I'm sorry, guys.
All right, I want to say one thing. So radicalism hides, just like socialism and communism, behind a beautiful veneer of something people will accept, because nobody's going to sign up. Like the Jews, the Chinese people, nobody's going to sign up for this. Nobody would ever sign up for what happens in Venezuela, what happened in Cuba. Nobody would ever sign up for that, right? So it has to become in this glossy, beautiful veneer package where people will accept it. And perfect example is, I have, very, former friends that are very moderate seeming liberals. And the fact that they have been so radicalized so quickly, and rear their heads into the present day, and just come at me in such an aggressive, radical way, when we have this history, this peaceful friendship history together, is like evidence to me that this is real. This is, if the most moderate suburban moms that just want to take care of their kids and do good are embracing, BLM, these Marxist agendas, embracing socialism, have so much white guilt and white shame, things like that. And mind you, these aren't all white people either that have been the ones to be radicalized. It's so many. It's everyone that has been on that side of things, that have not crossed over, that have not woken up to the lies and the manipulation that have happened. That's scary to me. It's really scary how somebody can fundamentally change so quickly, their entire personality, to not even show up in somebody's life and say, hey, you want to talk about this issue, in a respectful, civil way. If you've lost those people, what do you think under the veneer looks like for those super radicals who actually know the agenda, who have the game plan, who are sticking to their, well-educated, trained Marxists? What do you think they're operating like? So we have to keep our eyes open and stop, assuming that this is not going to be as bad as it is. Because, and I'm a very positive person, but I feel obligated to be completely honest with what I'm feeling and what I know in my heart to be true. I could just sit here and try to inspire people and give you some positive BS, but it's just not being honest. And I want people to be prepared, and I want people to wake up. Because in some ways, we see things differently. We see them very clearly because we're getting so much pushback from the left. So we see people's colors show very quickly. And I wanted to share that with you because that's something to be aware of. I hope you guys all have a really great day. Let me see if there's any other comments. Yeah. We're going to do an episode on the whole education thing because that's been an interesting thing. We've been keeping tabs on the local public school, local private school experiences, and what's happening to kids right now. It's definitely something worthy to be talked about in a whole other discussion. So, all right. Thank you guys so much. Have a good day, you guys. All right, here, how do I end it? There we go.